Good morning. So today I have Lily with us, who is responsible for people strategy. She is responsible for making sure everything works smoothly in a company, especially because if the company is that big. Let's welcome Lily on 10 Minutes of Hiding Wisdom, where she will tell us about where she works, what she's learned along the way, and how we can implement her learnings in our day-to-day lives to become successful like her. Hi Lily, how are you doing?
Hello. Great to be here. Thank you for inviting me. And as you mentioned, I have been working on people strategies for quite a few years. I am currently working at Hewlett-Packard Enterprise, and I lead human resources for one of the business units that has to do with the communications technology.
Okay, and how did you come across this company? Was it a referral? Did you just apply to it? Can you showcase your journey?
Certainly. So I started working with HP at the time. So Hewlett Packard, it's been about 15 years ago. And I wasn't quite sure what role I wanted to do at the company. My background is in English. I have a master's degree in English. Yet I was applying for a technology company, which I thought really had a great future and a great image. So I really wanted to be a part of it. So my approach to that was to just get my foot in the door, and I applied for an executive assistant position and I got hired. I have been there since, and basically Hewlett Packard then turned into Hewlett Packard Enterprise, and that's where I am today. Also, it's important that in my journey, I did not stay as an executive assistant for too long. I did make my desires known in terms of what my skill sets are, where I aspire to be, that I constantly want to be growing and developing. So shortly after being an assistant, I moved into a business analyst role, and then I continued my growth into strategy and operations. Yet the entire time I felt this fire in my belly to be working on people strategies more than on the financials and business. So with that, I eventually made the switch over to human resources, where I have been for nearly 10 years now.
Okay, and what is your day-to-day life in human resources? Like, what do you do? Can you maybe tell a little about that? Because I think so many people these days are pivoting towards human resources managers, especially because there's a need for that, because companies these days are hiring like crazy. So there's definitely a need for a person who can make the processes much more smoother, much more efficient. So how's your daily life like?
So I'm responsible for over 3,000 resources globally.
Wow.
And primarily in our business, we have everything from salespeople to very many, majority of the organization is software engineering type resources. So developers, engineers, and we have our delivery people. So it's a very big organization, and we're based in anywhere from India, China, Japan, and many European countries, and in the Americas as well. And if you can imagine, in a global organization, I don't tend to know everything about every single country. So my primary role is looking after the business overall, understanding what the business strategy is, where the business wants to go, and putting people strategies in place to help business accomplish their goals in terms of, everything is done through people, right? So that's, it's extremely important that our business strategies and people strategies align.
That's
and with that,
true.
if I think about, I work on everything from where do we hire people? How do we hire people? How do we develop people? How do we keep them engaged and motivated? So all those things are things that I deal with on a day-to-day basis, basically.
Okay, and I'd love to hear. So the pandemic came. None of us were expecting it. How was it like pivoting and managing 3,000 resources globally in order for them to make sure that the sales strategy, the people strategy align, which is something that's very important these days?
Very good question. And initially, when we started, we were thinking that we will have lots of challenges, especially considering when we have a group of engineers working on a project, they were used to getting into a room, putting things on a board, charting things together, working together, right? And then all of a sudden, all of that was taken away. But what I would say is, in a sense, it actually brought us closer together, because now it doesn't matter whether you are working on a project sitting in one country or another country. Are you in the office? Are you not? Everybody, the playing field is even, right? So while there was an adjustment, a pain period involved, it also allowed everybody to feel closer together as a team and become more creative, of course, using some tools that we had to provide, but to work better together. And actually also from continuity perspective, you are able to work truly around the clock, because once one team wakes up, they start working, and then they can pass it on to another team who continues on, and so on.
Okay, that's very true. I think the getting together aspect and everything was so important, but I think a lot of companies like yours decided to learn from it, get inspiration, and came up with creative ways to make sure that the creativity of your team members didn't stop there. So it's great to see that companies like you were able to adapt, because I think some companies weren't so lucky. So I'm glad that things worked out for you, Lily. My next question for you, Lily, would be that is your company hiring? What kind of positions are open? Because I do know your company is big and they're constantly growing, but I'd love to hear from you regarding what positions are open, so that if people are hearing, they know what to seek for.
Yes. So overall, Hewlett Packard Enterprise is hiring, but also my specific business unit, so Communications Technology Group is the name of it. We are also hiring, very actively hiring in India, in China, in Spain, in Japan, in Europe again, and in the Americas. So it's global. We have lots of positions open. We are primarily, our business unit is focused on the telco sector. And we hear buzzwords like 5G, like orchestration. So we look for engineers that will help us continue to drive the 5G evolution forward. And in terms of the types of roles that we're looking for, whether it's technical consultants, engineers, software developers. So very much in the technology space, in the software engineering space, is the types of roles that we're looking for to fill.
Okay.
And in terms of experience,
sorry,
also the range. And also the range of experience. So we have openings, whether it's new college graduates or very experienced hires as well. So it's a very wide variety of roles that we're trying to fill.
That makes sense. My follow-up question for you would be that these days, a lot of companies are hiring. And a lot of companies are finding it hard to find really good talent. So, which is why a lot of companies are open to working with other agencies or helping them find talent. So is your company specifically open to working with agencies to help them find talent, or do you prefer in-house recruitment?
Well, we actually have one company that we're partnering with for our talent acquisition. And then in terms of if we are unable to find resources through this one company, then we involve agencies as well, because you are absolutely correct. Especially if we're looking for very niche skills, it's very difficult to find the right resources. And the market is extremely, extremely hot at this point.
That's very true. I think everyone is after the greatest talent. So it makes sense, especially with Facebook changing into Meta and everything. There was this announcement of acquiring so many engineers. So I think when it comes to big names and everything, a lot of companies struggle, especially when they're new companies. So it's good to hear that now companies are much more open-minded, much more open to working with agencies, because at the end of the day, you want people who work best for you. And that's essentially very important. But that is all today for Lily. That is all for today. Thank you so much for coming on the show, for sharing your wonderful insights about your company, how you got into HR, and the processes that you generated that helped your company grow and manage 3,000 resources, which is absolutely amazing. It was an absolute pleasure having you as a guest.
Thanks so much for having me.